General Supremacy, sir, serious. Vice Admiral S.J. Singh, DG USI, General Shukla, Dr. Kamath, distinguished guests, academia, some old friends who I can see in the audience. Thank you very much to both Sandeep and Anurag for inviting me. Firstly, after whatever was there in my speech, about 80% has been spoken by the previous three speakers. I am just glad that the other two are speaking after me. So I have something to say. And moreover, it's a Thursday afternoon. So keeping people, interested and going in the afternoon is another challenge. So since I have time, and also Sandeep said that, we have invited the finest minds to discuss this topic. So I was looking around that, is he talking about me or somebody else? So I don't consider myself a very finest mind in technology for sure. Since like I said, my speech has been spoken, so I can speak about other things as well. I'm reminded, let me put an anecdote to you. Way back in 1912, Max Planck got the Nobel Prize for quantum physics. And after that, he was a German professor. He was roaming around all over Germany giving talks on quantum physics. No one knew, there was no social media, no one knew what he looked like. So he would go from place to place in his car with his driver and give a talk to all the universities. The driver was the same fellow. The chauffeur, after listening to the same talk, because after he used to drop him, he used to sit in the talk, after listening to it 6 times, told Max that, boss, don't you get bored of this talk? I have heard the whole thing 6 times, verbatim, I also know it. He says, okay, then what we'll do with the next university, you give it. So this is actual true story, you can Google it. So Max Planck sat in the audience with the chauffeur hat, and the chauffeur came with his suit and gave the entire talk verbatim. Nobody knew better. And suddenly one person in the audience asked a question. When somebody asked a question, then the chauffeur, he looked at him, looked at the chauffeur, looked at Max, and said, such a fine university, such a stupid question, my chauffeur can answer it. So the chauffeur got up and answered the question. What's the point of the story? The point of the story is that, especially today, by reading a couple of articles, seeing a few YouTube videos, attending a couple of seminars like this, one can easily masquerade as a technology champion. Why seminars like this are important is because there are people here with much deeper understanding of technology and what it takes to get it going and getting it into the armed forces, and therefore it's necessary to engage with each other. I, for one, am not a technologist, and as my name suggests, I am a generalist. So, however, allow me to start on this very important aspect which we are seized with a personal reflection. About 37 years ago, when I joined the army as a lieutenant, and we used to have war games and exercises, and we walked into an ops room, there were these paper maps. We as lieutenants had paper clips, colored maps, colored flags, and so on. And as some information came in from either the ground or from a picture, we would read it, see the grid reference, mark it on the map. The commander would also watch slowly how the picture built up, and slowly the OODA cycle would kick in. You also knew at that time the adversary is working at the same speed. So you were comfortable, and accordingly you would take a decision. 20 years later, it moved a little faster. There was some PowerPoint, little bit more of technology, some computers, etc. Today, when you walk into an ops room, it's like Star Wars. There is a wall-to-wall digital display, and as we just spoke, sensors directly are mapping location of targets onto the screen. The algorithm, which in some of is in place, something coming up, is quickly deciding as to how to prioritize the target, and the commander is faced with a decision, a dilemma to take a decision in seconds. And he also knows that the adversary is seeing pretty much the same thing from his side. The OODA loop has no time to breathe. In this decision dilemma, what we are calling the algorithmic warfare is where the commander needs to take a decision. This is what we are trying to perfect here. Now, this brings us to the question of, now if the commander is required to take a decision based on the sensors information that the CDs also spoke about, getting onto the map on a GIS platform, and then based on that data, what is available, and based on what the algorithm is calculating, which is coming out of a black box, and he has to take a decision. He has to be sure as to what is the data being used, whether it's sovereign, it is not manipulated, it is bona fide. And secondly, the logic, what is being used to derive the decision, which he has to take one or two out of, is it correct? The black box, so to speak, has to be a glass box. Therein lies one challenge. Coming to the overall topic as such, most of the things have been said. I'll come out with 3-4 things that I'd like to put in perspective, purely from the Indian Army point of view. As it was said, in my current appointment as Deputy Chief of Army Staff, Information Systems and Training, my verticals look after the aspect of communication, networking, data management, the automation, transformation in the digital format, as also all communication networks. Primarily, this is accomplished through two verticals who work with me, the DG IS, the DG Information Systems, and the DG Signals. The DG Signals looks after largely communication and networks, and the rest of the piece of data, AI, etc., some of the officers are here and will be speaking to you later, look after the aspect of creating the algorithms to manipulate this data and give us decision support. Let me assure you that the Indian Army is completely seized with the fact, as the CDS brought out, of the importance of it and the need for it to put it into place fastest. And we are also watching very closely what is unfolding around us in the various conflicts around. In fact, as a tank man, very recently, I observed with great interest what has happened in the Battle of the Bayak corridor, wherein the Russian offensive, which was largely armor-led, the mechanized offensive with vehicles and tanks and what have you, and tanks which were equipped with the latest Arena M, I think, active protection system. How virtually this whole column was stopped in its tracks, not by another mechanized column, but by an envelope of combination of drones, the Delta command and control system, and there's a lot of stuff on the net on it, and of course some here have also written about it. That whole aspect of how asymmetry in battlefield can be made through technology is very evident in that, and so we are seized with that. And we are therefore doing what is necessary to take this forward. And in this context, as most of you will be aware, we have declared this decade, we are in the middle of it now, as the decade of transformation. And more specifically, this particular year as the year of networking and data centricity. These are not mere slogans. Now, as you heard the CDS speak, and its great concern for data, how to get it, how to fuse it, how to structure it, that is why the year of data centricity and networking. So in this particular year, which half of it is already over, we have looked at very seriously at this piece as to how to collect the data and what to do with it. And we are looking at creating a sovereign data lakehouse, which can be accessed by whoever needs the data, whether it be the int people, the operational people, the logistics people, based on what they need from it. And we are engaging actively with industry to help us in this process. Of course, it needs data centers, which we are setting up. It needs compute, which also a large amount of data centers and compute capability have come up. Like it was brought out earlier, as part of this initiative of having better networks and data management, we are also looking at solutions on how to make our trusted network. We have an air-gapped network called the Army Defense Network, an optical fiber network. But it cannot be closed. This particular network has to speak to other networks. Say, for example, for int fusion, whatever intelligence we are gathering through our own sources is trusted intelligence which comes in and fuses. But we also need to pump into this system OSINT, which comes from the internet. Now, therefore, we need the internet to speak to the ADN, and we need some connection wherein it is safe and secure, like a data diode, software, hardware based. So those are some things we are looking at in this particular concept of network centricity and getting data there. Secondly, I'd like to talk about that. We talk about strategic autonomy. Now, strategic autonomy is not possible without digital autonomy. I've already spoken about the operational room paradigm, and I think for digital autonomy, there are three aspects which are important. One is the data layer, which I have spoken about. The data must be housed here. It must be manipulated only by us. The second layer is the algorithmic layer. That is, the algorithm must also be owned by us, written by us, so that we know what the logic being used to manipulate the data and give us decision support. And thirdly is the operational layer, which means that it must be resistant to cyber attack. It should be able to, the whole system should be able to work under degraded state, under attack. So therefore, in this process, we are in the process, like I told you, developing a sovereign LLM, both LLM and SLMs, an intelligentized situational awareness system. It's called SAMA. We're also looking at a CIDSS, a combat information decision support system, which we are building for what even the CDS has spoken about, to get the OODA loop faster, the sensor shooter kill chain to be seamlessly activated. Thirdly, as we are all aware that we are a developing country, and therefore we need to get maximum bang for the buck. Legacy equipment that is already existing in the system, whatever legacy equipment we have, will go hand in hand for some time along with modern technology being inducted. The dumb phone has to be made into a smartphone. So therefore, there is a need also, and which we are doing through Project Swayat and so on, that legacy equipment which we have, how to make it more smarter, make it autonomous. Can we convert the current T-72 tank into an autonomous tank, a few of them? Can we convert dumb ammunition that we already have in great numbers into smart ammunition, or with longer ranges, using better fuses, using technology, rather than trying to procure everything new? This is also a requirement in our context, because huge numbers of already legacy equipment ammunition is there, which also needs to continue to be used as we induct new technology. Fourthly, I'd like to say, which was also brought out earlier and also by Colonel Anurag, that we are trying multiple routes to ensure that the technology cycle and the procurement cycle, which are out of sync, no procurement cycle which is standard in nature, and governments have to have some standard procurement cycles, can match today's technology cycle. Technology changes in months. Procurement takes time, a little more time than that. So various projects like Aditi, recently the new DAP has come up with some solutions, IDEX, etc., those methods. I know for a fact that these are still not possibly out there, but the effort is on. I'd like to assure the industry that it is never a cause of indifference. It is only a question of procedural time that sometimes may lead to a feeling that we are not doing it fast enough. But the aspect is there. Lastly and fifthly, I'd like to talk about the ethics part. Definitely, we are looking at as all around the world, in India especially, right from the time of our mythological wars, whether it was Mahabharata, Ramayana, the Brahmastra was only used after God gave permission. I think AI-driven warfare is almost reaching there, and therefore the requirement of a human in the loop and understanding the part of it is very important. And India as a nation definitely is looking at Shakti and Dharma to go hand in hand, so that we do the righteous and the correct thing. What I mean by that is that any AI-enabled system must have either a human in the loop or human on the loop wherever it's possible. Of course, in certain cases where it's massive targeting, if you can trust the logic, it may be semi-autonomous or autonomous, but largely you'll need to put somebody on the loop. Secondly, any AI-driven system must be put through the same rigor and testing and evaluation as we do for a weapon system. Before we induct a weapon system into the army or ammunition into the army, we go through a huge amount of field evaluation, trials and so on, and then it's inducted. If a system is going to ultimately lead to violence on the battlefield, it needs to be inducted in the same way. With that, I'd like to just say once again that one is looking forward to the seminar, the panels coming ahead, as to what they have to say about this very important topic. And I like to assure the House once again that as far as the Indian Army is concerned, since I am at the forefront of this technological transformation, we are completely seized with it. We are more than willing and welcoming to our industry partners to assist us in this quest, because for sure we are not the last word in it. We are the practitioners, and we would definitely want that walk hand in hand with us right from the stage of setting the requirement up to the procurement, not only come in at the procurement stage. Only then can we make this whole thing work, and we are very much aligned for that and looking forward to the discussion further. Thank you once again. Jai Hind.